Welcome to the kiwimana Day. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 35. Gosh, can you remember the first one we did?
Yep, I can.
Okay.
It was pretty bad.
We've come such a long way. Well, welcome to the Kiwimana Buzz. This is a show
Yes, welcome.
where we talk about beekeeping, gardening and life. It's me, Margaret, and
Gary. And we're beekeepers from the hills of Waitakere Ranges in West Auckland, New Zealand.
So welcome everybody.
And what's our podcast about?
You tell me.
Well, it's about beekeeping, gardening, and sometimes politics, about environmental issues. And what have we been known to do?
We've been known to go off on tangents about other issues.
Absolutely, we have. That can happen, unfortunately, guys.
So, it's just part of what we do.
Yep, and the show notes for this podcast are kiwimana.co.nz/35.
Awesome. I'm very pleased. I think we have a lot of fun and feedback from all the podcasts we're doing, and we're just really happy to have you all along and, enjoy. So, what's been happening at Kiwimana, Gary?
Well, I've been told about a new webpage. I think it's based in Australia. It's called Swarm Patrol, and that's swarmpatrol.com.
Okay, how does that work?
I think what happens is members of the public report swarms, and the people in the area of the reporter get told about it.
Is this like for all over the world or just for Australia?
It's for all over the world. Yeah, it's all over the world. I've registered for New Zealand, and I'm the first person in New Zealand to register on it.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Roll out the barrel.
Yeah,
Indeed.
that's it. So I've registered, and I guess everyone else should register too to get some swarms.
Yeah, and speaking of swarms, I just want to cut in there. It has been the most amazing swarm season, and we've only just hit November. So we've had so many calls. We've been able to share swarms with other people and then give some away and help some people, beginner beekeepers, start their beekeeping adventures. So it's been flat out, eh?
Yeah, we've had quite a lot, haven't we? And we've basically run out of apiary gear, haven't we?
Yeah, we've used all our boxes. We've done so many splits, and there's been a lot of queen cells this year. I mean, we talked about it, I think, earlier on, that in one hive we had 12 queen cells and then another one 7. And I had a swarm the other day that I managed to capture and put in another box, and that was fine. Then the next day, the same hive or colony decided to swarm again, so I had to put it in some more boxes. And then I found young unmated queens, and there was a whole heap of them. And yeah, it's just been crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, speaking of crazy, I've been crazy in the workshop, haven't I? Building mesh boards and painting mesh boards. And
I thought you didn't really want to talk about that in public.
What, busy? Being busy? Oh,
Being
okay.
crazy.
Oh, well, everyone knows I'm crazy, so that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
But crazy like a fox.
I hope so. And we had some good interviews this month, didn't we? I spoke to Josiah. And we also spoke to Karen Bean, and she's actually a listener of the podcast, and she really enjoys our podcast. So, we've got one good fan. It's awesome.
Got lots of fans.
I know, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome, and these interviews are so good because they're with people all over the world, and it just means that we can learn about what they do, and they can learn about what we do, and share information, which is really helpful to all of us.
Absolutely, and it's quite humbling that someone near Seattle is actually listening to our podcast. So, thanks,
Absolutely.
Karen, if you're listening to this one.
Yeah, and Josiah, awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, and we'll be releasing those in the next couple of weeks. And so, what's happening with you, Margaret?
Well, I've been crazy like a fox too.
Okay. And I heard you've been crafty as well.
Oh yeah, it's been like a beaver colony around here. Just one damn thing after another.
Oh, God. I thought you were referring to that show we've been watching. What's it called?
Yeah, Duck Dynasty.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. I think they're just awesome people and they're just having just a good time.
Yeah, I don't know about the way they blow up beaver colonies, but it's a bit evil.
I guess it's like us killing possums. Australians might not like that at all, but we love it.
So what else have you been doing then?
Anyway,
On the show notes here, we've got Craft Out West.
See, that's the tangents that we were talking about.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Yes.
so what I've been up to is obviously I've been working in the workshop making a lot of gear because people at this time of the year in New Zealand, we're into the bee season and this year has been absolutely off to a raging start, and so they've been wanting lots of boxes and frames and wax and what else, the hive tools. We've got a really cool hive tool that's designed by a Kiwi guy and made here in New Zealand, so we're very proud to sell that, and it's a really awesome tool. We've also been as I said, splitting hives, but also trying to make the most of all the queen cells that we've got, and yeah, they all seem to be working. We've got quite a few nukes at the other apiaries. And what else have we been doing? I've been working on some other projects like the Craft Out West annual event, which is happening this weekend. That's in the Henderson West Wave Recreation Centre in Henderson Central. So come along, guys. We're raising money for the West Auckland Hospice, and yeah, every donation helps.
And what date is that one for people that listen to this in the future?
It's the 9th and 10th of November.
Which is, as time of this recording, that's this weekend, yeah.
Yeah. So, so come along and enjoy that. We're going to be promoting our neighbour's organic honey, which is certified organic, and we're going to have some novelty bee cakes using some of kiwimana's honey, and also we are doing a few pictures on canvases for, just another way to earn a bit of money as well. So come along and enjoy, and we hope to see you there. Come and say hi and say that you've listened to the Kiwimana Buzz, and yeah, we'll have a good chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else have I been up to?
Oh, I don't know. What else have you been up to?
Well, we've had a lot of orders for beginner kits, so I've been working on those and trying to be very patient about inspecting the hives. And today we've got 3 hives that are ready to go, which is awesome. Also, we saved a few queens that we got from a cancelled order from a queen rearer, and one of the nukes from that has gone, so that's another one sorted. And we saved a few hives by giving away some frames of eggs because people have lost queens. So
that's right.
We've been saving the bees.
We have.
Yeah.
One frame at a time.
One frame at a time, indeed.
Yes, yes, we have.
It's been awesome, and we've had a lot of people book our beekeeper services, and we've had repeat bookings, so we're very happy with that. And I think that we're offering a service that's really good value, and yeah, always happy to help. So if you need to call us, it's Auckland 810-9965. If you want to have a chat about any of your beekeeping needs, or you want just some help and advice with your new beehive, so don't hesitate to call.
Absolutely, and I spoke to Colin on the weekend about his hive splitting, so that was interesting to talk to one of our readers. He loved our article about hive splitting. He just wanted to ask a couple of questions about it. So
we are available, and that's what we want to do. We want to help you, and so enjoy your beekeeping, but also know the rules that are related to it and how you can manage your hive in a good manner, but also according to what's required under keeping bees. So
absolutely,
yeah.
So give us a call and leave a message if we're not home, because we'll probably be out on swarms.
Yeah, or email us at info at kiwimana.co.nz, and yeah, we're happy to help where we can. We've had some overseas inquiries too, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Didn't we have some emails from overseas?
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback from overseas. It's been good, and I haven't got that with me.
Okay, I got you on the hop, eh? We've also been, we've released a special edition of the newsletter because we were published in a Handyman New Zealand magazine.
We were.
And we had a bit of a competition for that, and I really expected the answer to the question that I asked to have the proper name of the insect we were referring to. So we put out this special edition newsletter about the Handyman New Zealand.
Yeah.
And we asked the question, what insect do Australian beekeepers have to deal to that slimes up the hive? Now, the answer that we were looking at...
Koala bears.
I'm not sure they slime.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they're not an insect.
No.
So anyway, we did get answers, but the technical name, no one gave us that. So we're still waiting.
I think the answers that were given were good enough, don't you think?
I'm tough.
But
I'm a tough judge.
We're not meanies like that.
No, but if I asked you what was the bee that we put in hives in New Zealand, would you just say the honeybee? You wouldn't say...
I would say
Apis mellifera.
Apis mellifera.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm indicating, that we need to know what the real name is of that insect.
I think next time we should specify we want the Latin name.
Well...
Not just the name.
Who are you supporting here?
Our customers.
We had 3 copies to give away of the New Zealand Handyman.
Yeah.
So don't worry, we will be getting in touch with you. And thanks to all of you who responded.
Absolutely.
And we just hope you enjoy the magazine. And we'll be publishing that very soon.
And we just need your postal addresses, but we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, we'll get in touch to those who've won it. So watch that space.
Well, let's recap the top 3 blogs after this musical interlude. Well, that's pretty relaxing.
Yeah, I feel completely chilled out.
Well, top 3 settle. The top 3 settle. Oh God!
Stop.
The top 3 settles. The top 3 blog posts this month were what to do to look for during a hive inspection. Borage, why is it so good? We got some of that in the weekend, didn't we? And hive stand, introducing the kiwimana hive stand. And what's so funny about those blog posts?
Funny?
They're all written by...
Who?
All but one is written by me.
Oh, hallelujah. I'm so proud of you, Dale.
Oh, sorry. It was just funny. Yeah, the one about borage is written by Brandon, and that's been very popular, hasn't it? It's been shared and twittered and retweeted and everything, so it's been very, very popular. And we actually got some in the weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, well, actually, we bought some seeds.
Seeds, because you can't buy the plants.
So his article actually planted some seeds.
Literally. We've got to
we haven't planted them yet.
No, we've got to find somewhere to do it before summer starts in earnest.
Oh, while we're on that, we are looking at redoing our apiary, and that's coming along. I'm getting some garden boxes put in, and pretty soon I'll be starting to plant them up. So it's all very exciting out on Kiwimana HQ.
Absolutely, and the for people in New Zealand, the manuka is flowering, so manuka honey is on its way. And
I think we're going to have a nice white Christmas with all that manuka flowering.
We will. Let's hope we get some honey before then.
Oh, we also got all the cabbage trees. They're in huge amount of flower this year, and the bees are just loving it.
Yeah, they're all bringing a lot of white pollen back.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And shall we get into the news?
You forgot to talk about what to look for during a hive inspection.
Yeah, well, we kind of talked about that the last podcast, and I remember I promised I'd make a blog post about it, and this is the blog post. Oh. So we've kind of talked about that. So we don't want to repeat ourselves for our regular listeners.
Well, no, but I mean, I think it's really important to know that because this is the start of the bee season, there are some common things that you would be looking at doing at this time, and the inspections are part of that. And what you find in the hive is a good indication of what you need to do going forward.
Well, should we go over the basic things we'd look for then?
Yeah, just basic.
So the first thing we got look for is signs of disease.
Yep.
It's AFB, deformed wing virus, any kind of disease in your local area.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we can't speak for the whole world, but in New Zealand we don't have a disease they have in America. Yeah. So.
The other things, what are you looking for? You're looking for enough stores, don't you? Just to make sure that the bees have got food. The other thing to be aware of, though, that this is the start of the season. So when they might have had a lot of stores sort of kept in the hive over winter, now they're building up. So you'll notice that there's a lot of nectar, and then they'll start capping the top of the frame as the nectar comes in, and then they'll cap it as honey. So you need to start moving those frames that are becoming capped out to the side of the hives.
Yes, the ones with honey. Absolutely. And the next thing is the queen has enough space. You've got to make sure she has enough space to lay. If you don't do this and they call it honey bound, they will probably swarm. That's a great photo there, isn't it?
It's beautiful. I think that's a great me.
Yeah, it was you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love seeing the queens looking that good. So, yeah, you need to make sure she has enough space. If they start putting comb everywhere, then you're pretty well sure that you need to give them another box and start taking the honey and moving it up so you create more room down in the brood box.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't we hear about a customer the other day had a feeder on the top, and that actually started building comb inside that?
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, that everyone's coming into the house over summer, so you really need to make some room for everyone, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so summer's coming, guys, and the bees are ready. Are you ready?
Yep, absolutely. The trick is to have enough spare boxes available for them. And if you need any boxes, kiwimana.co.nz.
That's right. Check out our online shop.
We've got 3/4 boxes sitting there now, ready for you.
Yeah, and that's to help you with the honey flow, so they're not too heavy. And also the other thing that you'd be looking at is trying to get some honey stores for your bees so that they can feed off that over winter. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And the last thing is the queen laying well? Do you see eggs? Do you see different stages of the brood? Are all the eggs drone brood? What does that indicate?
Well, there are a lot of factors with that, but generally I think what you're trying to indicate is that if they start laying a lot of drone, that it could be a worker bee who is laying. But generally you'll find multiple eggs in a cell if it's worker bee, but there'd be a lot of indications to go with that, so it's not a hard and fast rule really. At the start of the season you'll always get a lot more drones because that's what they need to have, so that the new queens of the season have lots of mates out there so that they can grow their genes, but that's part of the new start to the season, to have the drones around.
Absolutely.
It's also used in drone brood management is used as part of an integrated pest management program, so that's another one.
Yeah, that's where people remove the drone comb to reduce the amount of varroa mites in your hive. So.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because what I found is that doing all the splits that we did earlier on, a lot of the bees did have a bit of, you could see there was evidence of varroa around, But all the new eggs and all the new bees are looking absolutely awesome, and very little varroa to be seen. So awesome!
Oh, that's fantastic.
That proves that theory about interrupting the varroa cycle.
Oh, with the splitting, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, I miss the bees. All I see lately is sawdust.
That's the way it should be. So what's this hive stand that's part of the sawdust?
Yes, it is. It's a hive stand that we're designing and we're trialing this season, and we've got one at the quarantine apiary, and it's looking really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's looking good. We're talking about different ways that we can, use the hive stand to make it easier to manage the apiary. So we're also looking at other things like weed management and ease of use, so you don't have to go on your knees really to inspect the hive. So we're all still developing it, but one of our beginner beekeepers had a look at that, and made a really awesome looking one.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. Someone here, but there was also someone in America called Colleen that did exactly the same thing. So she saw our thing, and so we've been inspiring people to make them. Yeah,
no, they look really good, and I use the same principle to make the little garden beds that I want to plant all the new plants in. So it's the same principle, but we just don't have the two edges.
Yeah, and we're going to put like a little chicken mesh grid area in the middle just to put your cups of tea and your chocolate bars on.
That's right, you always got to bring your chocolate bar. Like in your swarm kit, you must have chocolate.
Yes, that was right.
And more chocolate.
I noticed Matt actually commented about the blog post saying that the chocolate was a good addition.
Yeah, absolutely essential.
Yes. Unfortunately, in this kind of weather, it tends to melt, doesn't it? So you need to get one of those chili bins that you can plug into your cigarette lighter in your car to store your chocolate and drinks.
Yeah, because you don't need it for cigarette smoking, do you?
No one does that anymore.
Okay,
let's get into the news. Ooh.
Reporting live from Kiwimana HQ. We have Gary. Go ahead, Gary.
I'm not that serious. Okay. First bit of news. Teens free stricken tourists. This happened on a remote South Island road where some tourists, I think they were from China, had an accident in their car and the car caught on fire.
Jeez,
and there's some
Louise.
Dramatic photos there, and a passing farmhand and a couple of beekeepers, hooray, rescued them, pulled them out of the car and saved them.
I know, we're such brave souls, us beekeepers. We go where no other person dares to go.
I think that was fantastic, guys. If you're listening, that's fantastic.
We're
Thanks
proud
for doing
of
that.
you.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good way, and it's an extreme way to light a smoker, but I think it's awesome.
Well, it's good to know that everyone was safe and survived, so
yes,
well done.
That's very good.
What's the next piece of information that you
we've got honeymead is making a comeback in America. And it's saying the amount of meaderies has risen by 100 over the last 5 years. So mead is becoming the most popular drink. And this is great news for Paul Berry, isn't it, of Sting Honey Mead, who we had on the show a couple of episodes ago.
Sting
Honey Mead.
Oh, yeah, that was, it's not really one of my faves, but...
Oh, you should try Paul's. It's really nice.
Oh, I'll have to do that.
And also Alan from the Auckland Bee Club does a really amazing one as well.
That's awesome. So, more fruits of the bees' labour that we can, enjoy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like a very sweet sherry, isn't it? But it's sort of very honey tasting.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I could have you have a little glass of it. You couldn't drink it all night, could you?
I think it's awesome, and it's good to have some more products coming from the hive.
Absolutely. And the next story is a sad story from Florida, where a citrus farm has actually killed millions of bees. They were apparently spraying at the wrong time, using the wrong instructions, and they've only just been fined, and the fine was $1,500.
Oh, I thought the chemical companies will be pleased, so they can blame the user of the product. It wasn't actually the chemical that killed them; it was the improper way of applying the pesticide.
Well, I think the big issue about this one is one of the beekeepers lost over $150,000 worth of bees, and these guys were only fined $1,500. So there's a bit of a hypocrisy there, isn't there?
I think there is. I think that I don't know. It just almost seems like nature and living are just not connected. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? And we also had an email from a customer in the weekend. We won't say names, but he actually lost 4 hives, or got 4 hives were damaged because of the next door neighbour spraying their apple orchard.
I think
so that's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, we were talking about this, and why would you spray your apples at this time of the year when you're waiting for fruit to come in? And don't you want the bees to be able to pollinate?
Well, those bees won't be pollinating anymore, will they?
I just think, come on, people. We know you've got to make a living. We understand that, but just think twice, maybe 3 times. Talk to your neighbours.
If you've got blossoms on the tree, you shouldn't spray them, I would have thought.
I would have thought that would be the time to not spray them.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you do, and you know your neighbour's got bees, maybe tell them and say, can either move them for the day, or can you block them up for the day? So that's another option. You could put them on a mesh board so they don't get hot, and then block them up for the day and just seal them in.
Yeah, I think a bit more communication, because it is important for us to look after nature, and I understand you need to look after your crop too, but at the end of the day you need that nature to pollinate your apple trees. So think seriously about contacting your neighbours, especially if you do know that they have bees.
Absolutely, and if you do have bees and you live near an orchard, maybe go and knock on the door and say, I've got bees. If you're doing any spraying, here's my phone number. Give me a call. Give me a couple of days' notice. Excuse me.
Indeed,
I think it's about communicating, because
it's always the insects or the animals or the trees or something that suffers because of the way humans operate. So, yeah, don't get me started.
No.
Let's move on. Honey launderers. Oh no! Now you're getting me started on something else. Jeez Louise.
Well, these are the popular stories. We don't dictate what we talk about.
No.
You guys out there do, by what you click on and what you listen to and what you react to. This one here was quite popular. Honey launderers, uncovering the largest food fraud in the US history. This is an article by Business Week, and they've uncovered a scam involving mislabeling honey that comes from China. I think it's to avoid paying tariffs and labelling it as from other countries. So that's a really interesting article, isn't it? It's quite in depth, a couple of few pages long. It's quite a good story.
We talked about similar things going on in the New Zealand honey exporting, and there seems to be a common denominator in all this, and I don't want to say it, so I won't. But
say it.
I think people need to keep honey from their own countries and sell it as that country's honey, and not try and rip everybody off by fraudulent activities. And I think it's disgusting. I don't know. I just think it's disgusting. And at the end of the day, it's about the big dollar or yen or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, this is another good reason why we shouldn't import honey, because we had a story last month about the similar thing happening in Australia. So, people can bring stuff in. And what they tend to do is they move this honey around the world in different containers. So it looks like it's coming from a Pacific port, but it was never created there.
Yeah, they've definitely. It's almost like, well, it is laundering, isn't it? It's like trying to put it through under false pretenses and then claim it as something legit. So it just sounds like a different kind of, mafia situation, I suppose you could say. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's all about money, which is sad. But yeah, have a read of that, guys. It's really interesting. And the show notes for this one are kiwimana.co.nz/35, and all the articles we mention are all referenced on there.
Just make a comment about that. It's just if you're selling honey to be exported to other countries, you should have more say in what happens to that honey. It should not just be sold to them for them to do whatever they want. They should be having to explain and to document what they're doing with the honey after that. And they shouldn't be allowed to do that and claim it to be real honey or whatever. So, I think we need to just be a bit more stronger about where we are, and we shouldn't be exporting honey unless it's packed in containers that are actually labelled New Zealand honey and not in big container,
in barrels,
40-gallon drums or whatever they are.
Well, a lot of people here, a lot of honey producers in New Zealand are doing that now. They're actually sending them overseas as packaged goods, not in drums.
And they're doing that because they're getting paid money over the odds that they would normally be paid. So I think once they sell it, how much accountability is there to the person who's purchased it to handle that honey in the appropriate way?
No, they are sending it over in smaller jars so that people don't repackage it. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing that now.
A lot of the companies that few years ago they were sending them over in 40-gallon jars. So has that changed?
Yeah. A lot of people are, not all of them, but a lot of people are doing that now. I've heard that recently.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because I hadn't heard that.
I think they must have heard your last podcast.
Yeah, I think protect your honey,
Absolutely.
And look after it.
And speaking of protecting honey, we had an incident at the Love's truck stop. That's a cool name, isn't it?
Where is that? Pennsylvania. Yeah, have a look at that, man. That is one massive swarm of bees.
Yeah, we spoke to Josiah. He's from Pennsylvania. I should have asked him about this.
Oh, okay. It might not have happened at the time.
Yeah, I think it had, because it was just on Sunday. But this is like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I see.
But it appears, and this is relevant to a story we've got from New Zealand as well, that a truck transporting bees stopped at a truck stop to have a cup of tea or something, and a lot of the bees flew off and they landed in a tree, and it looked like, what do they reckon? There was about 5 queens in it. It was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like our swarms this season.
Oh, nothing like that. It was huge, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's probably because they came from one place at that time. But the swarms this year are just going crazy. They've got heaps of queens in them.
Oh, but I mean, the actual size of it was like a massive
yeah, absolutely, one. I agree. But then when you've got lots of different queens, they sort of split up, don't they?
Yeah, they didn't appear to in that video. But
no, it was massive. How many did he say? It was about 20 or 50... footballs, what do they call it?
American footballs. Yeah, we'll have a look at the video, guys. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
And the next story is harvesting honey. It's a sticky business. And this is from the blog Talking with Bees. And this is a great blog post from Roger about extracting honey. And we'll actually be interviewing Roger in November, so you'll be able to hear all about that. He unfortunately had to cancel his last interview because he had the flu. He's obviously not drinking enough of his honey, is he?
Yeah, indeed.
But did you like that article?
Yeah, I had a look at that one, and yeah, it's good. It talks about something about women or
gorgeous women.
Yeah, you'll have to have a look at it, guys. There was also on there. You could click on a whole lot of other things as well when you go on the video, and there was a couple in there that I thought was really good. There was this one about really fast. It was obviously a camera. It looked like it was in a top bar type hive, and it was showing you how the bees build out the comb, and it just looked really amazing. So you might see that one on there, guys. Have a look at that.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. We had a top bar hive here, didn't we, the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, we had, what happened is that I'd been thinking about getting a top bar hive, and then we went to the Franklin Bee Club and I decided that I was going to get one, and then it was really weird, but that next week it was established that they were going to make them legal, because here in New Zealand they were saying that they weren't legal because you couldn't inspect them, but they've changed their view on that, and top bar hives are now legal in New Zealand to keep bees in, and I thought, wow, I made the decision at the right time. And then I got a call from a beginner beekeeper who had won a top bar hive and that she wanted some help to get some bees. So I said, well, bring it round and we'll have a look at it, and we'll both learn about top bar hives. And I said we can grow some bees for her, or we'll just see how it goes. And next thing you know, one of my other beginner beekeepers had a huge swarm at her place, and so she gifted the bees to me, and then I gifted the bees on to our beginner beekeeper, who's now taken the top bar hive away. But it was, I'm really excited about getting a top bar. But yeah, it's been an incredible season in terms of swarms.
Absolutely. And we should have a new top bar this weekend, won't we?
Yeah, you'll be picking that up, eh?
Hopefully, yep.
So that's from the Franklin Bee Club, and I'm really excited about that. And we have got quite a few bees that we can pick from now. Yeah,
they're made by one of our friends down there. We promised not to say his name because he's got too much work on.
Yeah, it's because he does such an awesome job of these top bars.
He's definitely a master craft.
And we're very grateful.
Yes, indeed.
You know who you are.
You do, and I know you're listening. And if you need any advertisement, just get in touch.
You know we'll do it.
Yes. Okay, well, let's get in. Let's have a bit of a musical interlude, and then we'll have questions from you. Okay, questions from you. First one is, how often should I treat with oxalic acid vapor?
I think that my view is this, that you should treat every change of season. So that's every 3 months. And I think that you should, once you've got your history of your hive in order, that you should monitor your bees.
Yeah.
And treat when you think it is right to treat. And if you are checking your varroa levels, then you'll know the trends and you'll have it before and after treatments and everything like that. So if your bees are doing well, what do you think?
I think
would you treat?
No, I wouldn't. I would before winter.
Yeah, I think that's. I agree with that. Not
during the middle of summer. If they've got no low mite count, why would you bother?
Yeah, so the oxalic acid vapor is a great way to treat your bees, and we find it successful. And yeah, so basically every 3 months.
Yep. And the next question is, when to put on an extra box?
Well, my view is that if you see the bees putting wax in between the frames and starting to put it on top of the frames at the top or in between and then on top of the hive mat, and they're just trying to put wax everywhere, then I think it's a really good indication that they haven't got enough room.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really want to anticipate everything they do, and not wait till it's too late.
Yeah, one of the ways we manage that is we have 2 full depth boxes, and in the bottom box, as they start to cap the honey, we move that up to the top level and move some empty frames down, and then they'll seal up that honey at the top, and then you can slowly do it that way, and they will start, they will think there's more room. So that's one of the ways we do it.
Absolutely.
Oh, and of course adding the extra box when that one starts to get full towards the middle.
Yep, and don't leave it till it's too late, guys, because we've had a lot of people coming over panicking because they've run out of boxes and they need to put a box on today. So if you can preempt them and then have a couple in reserve all the time, it's a less of a panic, isn't it, Margaret?
Yeah, I think ideally, if you were to say how much gear would I need to have one hive and operate it, in comfort, basically, is I would recommend 3 full depth Langstroths.
Yep.
And I would recommend 3, at a minimum, 3/4 honey supers.
Yeah.
And what you can do is that if you have the 3 full depth supers, you can actually use that to move the frames around and take the honey off that you want to keep for them over winter. So that's how that system works.
Yeah, and you can circulate the honey, isn't it? I mean, you don't have to leave all 3 on at the same time.
And one of the other things that happens is when a hive hasn't got enough room is that she will start actually laying eggs up in the honey supers.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't do that if she had plenty of room. So that's really a key. So when you're inspecting and you see she's laying above her brood frames, then you'll know she hasn't got enough room.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we've had a few other questions too about how to start beekeeping, and I would recommend people click on the beekeeping resources on our website, and there's a thing called Beekeeping 101. It's got 7 steps how to get started. I'd really recommend you read that and then get in touch with us because there's some really good ideas in there, isn't there, Margaret?
Yeah, and I think one thing I'm finding with beginner beekeepers is a lot of people like to do things hands-on.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, I support that because I'm pretty much like that myself. But the other thing I think is that there needs to be an understanding if you're taking on beekeeping, it's like getting any living thing. You really do need to look after them. You need to have patience and you need to work with them and listen to seasons and listen to the change in the weather and those kind of things, and that will help you be a better beekeeper.
Absolutely. Okay, let's now we'll have another interlude here, and we'll just come up with blog post coming soon. Okay, so
wow, that was
do you like that
was amazingly fast. I
Do it
didn't even
again,
have
then.
time to catch my breath.
I'll do it again. Is that better?
Okay, yeah. I think I got my breath now.
Well, in this month we've got blog post coming soon, and we've got the fabulous Karen Bean from Brookfield Bees and Honey. She's coming out on our podcast, and we're also going to have Josiah as well. He's from the Farming Podcast. We've also got an article about organic pesticides to promote bee safety. That's one of our guest blog posters is writing that one. We've also got one about different types of beehives. So we've got like a comparison of the Top Bar to the Langstroth to the National. And also we've got Queen Castle, Buzzingham Palace. That's my one, I think. That's our Queen Castle we've created, and we're going to talk about that. And that's how to save your queen cells. And also we've got an article about building beehive boxes. And what articles have you got coming up in the month of November?
Basically, I was going to put together a few stories from the beginner beekeepers that I've had and their experiences with their first swarms and, how they're managing the start of the bee season. So I'll do a few stories about that and basically a bit more about some of the things I've mentioned tonight and some of the questions too that come to us from beginner beekeepers. So yeah, that's
that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we're also looking at talking about Varroa resistance and what that actually means, and how you can avoid helping the Varroa to become resistant.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so feedback from you guys. Unfortunately, we had no iTunes reviews again this month, guys. So it was a sad face there. That's sad.
That is sad. I'm very sad. I think it's really sad. I mean, it's so sad. And come on, guys.
Yeah, come on, please help us. No, it does help other beekeepers find us, so that'd be awesome if you could do that. And that's kiwimana.co.nz/iTunes. But we did have a good review from Karen Bean when we talked to her, so that was awesome.
Yeah, we had some personal thank yous come through to us for, some of the activities that we did. And, we really are trying to help people keep bees well and healthy and promote good learning practices and good beekeeping practices. And so it's awesome, and we really, we want to say thank you for that positive feedback. And, when you give us that kind of stuff, it makes us do better. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Oh, I forgot to mention, we actually had Judy from the Bay of Plenty Beekeepers Club mention us in their newsletter, didn't she? And we actually sent some CDs down there of our podcast for them to hand out at the next club meeting. And she said that we were great.
Yeah, we
what
thank
did she
you.
say? I'll just read it for you.
Thanks, Judy.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. That's awesome. I think she mentioned that she listened to it in her car and she really enjoyed it. So that's fantastic.
It makes it so worthwhile, and we also get feedback about the products that we sell and how people use them, and then we talk to our suppliers, and then we can share that with you. And yeah, we do appreciate it. And sometimes we get bad feedback, not very often, but when we do, we absolutely are proactive in working through that and getting that sorted out for you. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for supporting Kiwimana through the good and the learning.
Absolutely, and just our contact details. If you're not listening to this on our website is kiwimana.co.nz, and you can email us at info@kiwimana.co.nz. And now I've got another question for you.
Okay, hit me.
Would you love to get an email telling you when we publish new blog posts and podcasts, and you get to hear about what we've been doing for that week?
Let us know, guys, what you think about that. I mean, we have a huge amount of subscribers now to our free newsletter, and it's full of lots of interesting information. And
it's free.
Yeah, it's free, and we're happy to talk as well, as I said. And ask any question. We're here to help.
Absolutely. And that's kiwimana.co.nz/sign up, or there's a sign up thing on the right hand side of our blog page. And also, just want to mention thanks to everyone who used the Amazon link this month. Someone bought The Omnivore's Dilemma, and also someone bought The Art and Adventure of Beekeeping. That's a great book, isn't it? Did you ever read that? It was about these.
No, I haven't. We've been talking about it recently.
Yeah, because Kevin from the BK Corner podcast also mentioned the book as well. And these guys, they were beekeepers in the Depression in America, and they actually had the Guinness Book of Records for the most honey from one hive.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we've talked about that previously. So it's really interesting to hear that stuff, from the past as well.
Yeah, he has a novel method of doing it by using the way he adds honey supers onto it. It's like a Pacific method, and the Pacific way he does it. I can't explain it in this podcast. It would take about an hour, but it's it's an amazing way to do it, and it's got some really good old tips. And I think, just because a book's old in the beekeeping world, it doesn't mean it's wrong, does it?
No, that's right. I mean, the thing is that we have to learn from what's come before, and then, learn what's happening now, and then put that together for what is going to happen in the future. And I think that's life, really.
Absolutely. And just speaking of Kevin's podcast again, he mentioned about how honey is better to feed the bees than sugar, and Reverend Langstreth came to that conclusion in 1870s.
It's so true. I mean, a lot of the things that we're trying to
it's all secular,
fight
isn't it?
now, or whatever you want to talk about, in terms of how to manage bees, is that if you just respond to how the bees are behaving and be aware of the weather and the seasons, I think you'll be an awesome beekeeper, and the bees will respond, and that's all you can do, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can, I think a lot of things have already been invented. So get hold of some of these old books, because a lot of them are free. If you've got a Kindle or you've got an e-book reader, you can actually download a lot of the stuff. Like even the Langstriff book is free now because it's out of copyright. And I mean the wording, the language is quite sort of, what's the word? Flowery. It's kind of like really old English writing, but
it's not old English.
It isn't unreadable. It's not unreadable.
No.
And he has got some good ideas. I mean, he has got some funny ideas as well. But just take what you can get some good stuff out of it. And obviously, they weren't dealing with big agriculture and monocultures and neonicotinoids back then. But the bees were probably pretty much the same as they were now. So check out, if you're buying a book this month, guys, kiwimana.co.nz/Amazon. If you're buying a book or a house or a car, please buy it through our link and we'll get a slight percentage of it. So that money went towards paying for the book from the Kim Pisa interview we did this month.
Awesome.
She's a beekeeping author. We did an interview with her. And that's been released a couple of weeks ago. So check that one out as well.
Okay, I just want to say that one thing I have noticed that, and this is a blog post that I haven't released yet, but this is called patience.
Patience.
We talked about that a lot with some of the beginner beekeepers, about being patient and not interfering with the hive when you've just got a new hive, because basically the bees don't like it. They want their hive to be dark and safe, and they want to go about their business without being interfered with. So hands off in some cases while your swarm settles in, and maybe for the first 4 weeks, wait.
But didn't you open one that was meant to be not open for 5 weeks?
I did, and it is a bit slower than the others. So, it is really important, and thanks for that, Gary. I appreciate that. But the truth is that what happens is that the bees do not like it when they've just come to a new place or they're a new hive and they're constantly being opened and interfered with, is what I'd call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really need to have that time to settle in. So give them a chance, guys, and let them settle in. And then once they start settling in, then you can, just go in and do a quiet inspection. So
yeah, good point, Margaret.
That's my handy hint for this month.
I look forward to that article. That sounds like a really good one. We should
just be patient. It is coming.
Yes. we should print it out and give it to all the new beekeepers we meet. And
indeed. Well, they're just so excited. You know?
Absolutely.
They went to all the effort to get the swarm. They got all their new gear. They just want to get in there, and I understand that. But just calm down, and it will happen. Maybe not overnight, but it will happen.
As Rachel Hunter would have said.
Yeah, but she was paid by, is it Pantene or whatever it was?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, I liked it better when she was advertising Hokey Pokey.
Anyway, for the After Hours bonus this month, we've got Dennis Van Eaglestrop. He's got a plea for the bees. And this video is back from 2008, but it's still very relevant. It's all about the issues with bees and the CCD. So have a listen to that. But as far as me and Margaret's concerned, that's it for us. We've finished the show now. So thanks guys for listening, and thanks guys for emailing us and reading our blog posts. We really appreciate it, and we wouldn't do it without you guys listening and giving all that feedback. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. See you next month.
Cheers. Bye.
What I'd like you to do is just really quickly, is just sort of nod to the person on your right and then nod to the person on your left. Now, chances are that over the last winter, if you had been a beehive, either you or one of the two people you just nodded at would have died. Now, that's an awful lot of bees. And this is the second year in a row we have lost over 30% of the colonies, or we estimate we've lost 30% of the colonies over the winter. Now that's a lot of bees, and that's really important. And most of those losses are because of things we know. We know that there are these varroa mites that have introduced and caused a lot of losses. And we also have this new phenomenon, which I talked about last year, colony collapse disorder. And here we see a picture on top of a hill in Central Valley last December. And below you can see all these out yards, or temporary yards, where the colonies are brought in until February, and then they're shipped out to the almonds. And one documentary writer who was here and looked at this 2 months after I was here described this not as beehives but as a graveyard with these empty white boxes with no bees left in them. Now, I'm going to sum up a year's worth of work in 2 sentences to say that we have been trying to figure out what the cause of this is. And what we know is that it's as if the bees have caught a flu. And this flu has wiped through the population of bees. In some cases, and in fact in most cases in 1 year, this flu was caused by a new virus to us, or newly identified by us, called Israeli acute paralysis virus. It was called that because a guy in Israel first found it, and he now regrets profoundly calling it that disease, because of course there's the implication, but we think this virus is pretty ubiquitous. It's also pretty clear that the bees sometimes catch other viruses or other flus. And so the question we're still struggling with, and the question that keeps us up at night, is why have the bees suddenly become so susceptible to this flu? And why are they so susceptible to these other diseases? And we don't have the answer to that yet. And we spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. We think perhaps it's a combination of factors. We know from the work of a very large and dynamic working team that we're finding a lot of different pesticides in the hive, and surprisingly sometimes the healthiest hives have the most pesticides. And so we've discovered all these very strange things that we can't begin to understand. And so this opens up the whole idea of looking at colony health. Now, of course, if you lose a lot of colonies, beekeepers can replace them very quickly, and that's why we've been able to recover from a lot of loss. If we lost 1 in every 3 cows in the winter, the National Guard would be out. But what beekeepers can do is if they have 1 surviving colony, they can split that colony in 2, and then the 1 half that doesn't have a queen, they can buy a queen. It comes in the mail. It can come from Australia or Hawaii or Florida, and you can introduce that queen. And in fact, America was the first country that ever did mail delivery queens, and in fact it's part of the postal code that you have to deliver queens by mail in order to make sure that we have enough bees in this country. If you don't just want a queen, you can buy actually a 3-pound package of bees, which comes in the mail. And of course, the postal office is always very concerned when they get, your 3-pound packages of bees. And you can install this in your hive and replace that dead out. So it means that beekeepers are very good at replacing dead outs. And so they've been able to cover those losses. So even though we've lost 30% of the colonies every year, the same number of colonies have existed in the country. At about 2.4 million colonies. Now, those losses are tragic on many fronts, and one of those fronts is for the beekeeper. And it's really important to talk about beekeepers first, because beekeepers are among the most fascinating people you'll ever meet. If this was a group of beekeepers, you would have everyone from the card-carrying NRA member, who's, live free or die, to the self-expressed, quirky San Francisco backyard pig farmer. And you get all of these people in the same room, and they're all engaged, and they're getting along, and they're all there because of the passion for bees. Now, there's another part of that community, which are the commercial beekeepers, the ones who make their livelihood from beekeeping alone. And these tend to be some of the most independent, tenacious, intuitive, inventive people you will ever meet. They're just fascinating. And they're like that all over the world. I had the privilege of working in Haiti just for 2 weeks earlier this year. And Haiti, if you've ever been there, is just a tragedy. I mean, there may be 100 explanations for why Haiti is the impoverished nation it is, but there's no excuse to see that sort of squalor. But you meet this beekeeper, and I met this beekeeper here, and he is one of the most knowledgeable beekeepers I've ever met. No formal education, but very knowledgeable. We needed beeswax for a project we were working on. He was so capable. He was able to render the nicest block of beeswax I've ever seen from cow dung, tin cans, and his veil, which he uses as screening, right in this meadow. And so that ingenuity is inspiring. We also have Dave Hackenberg, who is the poster child of CCD. He's the one who first identified this condition and raised the alarm bells. And he has a history of these trucks, and he's moved these bees up and down the coast. And a lot of people talk about trucks and moving bees, and that's being bad. But we've done that for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians used to move bees up and down the Nile on rafts. So this idea of a movable bee force is not new at all. And one of our real worries with colony collapse disorder is the fact that it costs so much money to replace those dead-out colonies. And you can do that 1 year in a row. You may be able to do it 2 years in a row. But if you're losing 50 to 80% of your colonies, you can't survive 3 years in a row. And we're really worried about losing this segment of our industry. And that's important for many fronts. And one of them is because of that culture that's in agriculture. And these migratory beekeepers are the last nomads of America. You know, they pick up their hives, they move their families once or twice in a year. And if you look at Florida, in Dade City, Florida, that's where all the Pennsylvania beekeepers go. And then 20 miles down the road is Groveland, and that's where all the Wisconsin beekeepers go. And if you're ever in Central Valley in February, you go to this cafe at 10 o'clock in the morning, Kathy and Kate's, and that's where all the beekeepers come after a night of moving bees into the almond groves. They all have their breakfast and complain about everyone right there, and it's a great experience, and I really encourage you to drop in at that diner during that time, because that's a quite essential American experience. And we see these families, these nomadic families, you know, father to son, and these guys are hurting. And they're not people who like to ask for help, although they are the most helpful people ever. If there's one guy who loses all his bees because of a truck overhaul, everyone pitches in and gives 20 hives to help him replace those lost colonies. And so it's a very dynamic and I think historic and exciting community to be involved with. Of course, the real importance for bees is not the honey, and although I highly encourage you all use honey, I mean it's the most ethical sweetener, and you know, it's a dynamic and fun sweetener, but we estimate that about 1 in 3 bites of food we eat is directly or indirectly pollinated by honeybees. Now, I want to just illustrate that in the fact that if we look at the breakfast I had yesterday morning, a little cranberry juice, some fruits, some granola. I should have had whole wheat bread, I realize, but, you know, jam on my Wonder Bread and some coffee. And had we taken out all those ingredients, except for the almonds I wasn't going to pick out from the granola. If we had taken out all those ingredients, the bees had indirectly or directly pollinated, we wouldn't have much on our plate. So if we did not have bees, it's not like we would starve, but clearly our diet would be diminished. It's said that for bees, the flower is the fountain of life, and for flowers, bees are the messengers of love. And that's a really great expression, because really, bees are the sex of flowers. They are they get paid for their services. They get paid by pollen and nectar to move that male sperm, the pollen, from flower to flower. And there are flowers that are self-infertile. That means the pollen in their bloom can't fertilize themselves. So in an apple orchard, for instance, you'll have rows of 10 apples of one variety, and then you have another apple tree that's a different type of pollen. And bees are very faithful. When they're out pollinating or gathering pollen from one flower, they stay to that crop exclusively in order to help generate. And of course, they're made to carry this pollen. They build up a static electric charge, and the pollen jumps on them and helps spread that pollen from bloom to plume. However, honeybees are a minority. Honeybees are not native to America. They were introduced with the colonists. And there are actually more species of bees than there are mammals and birds combined. In Pennsylvania alone, we have been surveying bees for 150 years, and very intensely in the last 3 years. We have identified over 400 species of bees in Pennsylvania. 32 species have not been identified or found in the state since 1950. Now that could be because we haven't been sampling right, but it does, I think, suggest that something's wrong with the pollinator force. And these bees are fascinating. We have bumblebees in the top, and bumblebees are what we call eusocial. They're not truly social because only the queens overwinter. We also have the sweat bees, and these are little gems flying around. They're like tiny little flies, and they fly around. And then you have another type of bee which we call kleptoparasites, which is a very fancy way of saying bad-minded, murdering, what's the word I'm looking for? Murdering bee. Okay, thanks. What these bees do is they sit there. These solitary bees, they drill a hole in the ground or drill a hole in a branch, and they collect pollen and make it into a ball, and they lay an egg on it. Well, these bees hang out at that hole, and they wait for that mother to fly away. They go in, eat the egg, and lay their own egg there, so they don't do any work. And so, in fact, if you know you have these kleptoparasitic bees, you know that your environment is healthy because they're top of the food chain bees. And in fact, there is now a red list of pollinators that we're worried have disappeared. And top of that list are a lot of these kleptoparasites, but also these bumblebees. And in fact, if you guys live on the West Coast, go to these websites here, and they're really looking for people to look for some of these bumblebees, because we think some have gone extinct, or the population has declined. And so it's not just honeybees that are in trouble, but we don't understand these native pollinators or all those other parts of our community. And of course, bees are not the only important factor here. There are other animals that pollinate, like bats, and bats are in trouble too. And I'm glad I'm a bee man and not a bat man, because there is no money to research the bat problems. And bats are dying at an extraordinary rate. White nose syndrome has wiped out populations of bats. If there's a cave in New York that had 15,000 bats in it, and there are 1,000 left. That's like San Francisco becoming the population of half of this county in 3 years. And so that's incredible. And there's no money to do that. But I'm glad to say that I think we know the cause of all these conditions. And that cause is NDD, Nature Deficit Disorder. And that is that I think that what we have in our society is we forgot our connection with nature. And I think if we reconnect to nature, we'll be able to have the resources and that interest to solve these problems. And I think that there is an easy cure for NDD, and that is make meadows and not lawns. And I think we have lost our connection, and this is a wonderful way of reconnecting to our environment. I've had the privilege of living by a meadow for the last little while, and it is terribly engaging. And if we look at the history of lawns, it's actually rather tragic. It used to be 200-300 years ago that a lawn was a symbol of prestige. And so it was only the very rich that could keep these green, actually deserts. They're totally sterile. Americans spend, in 2001, 11% of all pesticide use was done in lawns. 5% of our greenhouse gases are produced by mowing our lawns. And so it's incredible the amount of resources we've spent keeping our lawns, which are these useless biosystems. And so we need to rethink this idea. In fact, the White House used to have sheep in front in order to help fund the war effort in World War II, which probably is not a bad idea. It wouldn't be a bad idea. I want to say this not because I'm opposed completely to mowing lawns. I think that there is perhaps some advantage to keeping lawns at a limited scale, and I think we're encouraged to do that. But I also want to reinforce some of the ideas we've heard here, because having a meadow or living by a meadow is transformational. That it is amazing that connection we can have with what's there. These milkweed plants have grown up in my meadow over the last 4 years. And to watch the different plants or insects that come to these flowers, to watch that, and we've heard about, this relationship you can have with wine, this companion you can have as it matures and as it has these different fragrances. And this is a companion, and this is a relationship that never dries up. You never run out of that companion as you drink this wine too. And I encourage you to look at that. Now, not all of us have meadows or lawns that we can convert, and so you can always, of course, grow a meadow in a pot. Bees apparently can be the gateway to, other things. So I'm not saying that you should plant a meadow of pot, but a pot in a meadow. And but you can also have this great community of city or building top beekeepers. These beekeepers that live, this is in Paris, where these beekeepers live, and everyone should open a beehive because it is the most amazing, incredible thing. And if we want to cure ourselves of NDD or nature deficit disorder, I think this is a great way of doing it. Get a beehive and grow a meadow and watch that life come back into your life. And so with that, I think that what we can do, if we do this, we can make sure that our future, our more perfect future, includes beekeepers, and it includes bees, and it includes those meadows. And that journey of transformation that occurs as you grow your meadow, and as you keep your bees, or you watch those native bees there, is an extremely exciting one. And I hope that you experience it, and I hope you tell me about it one day. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much.